everybody, it's Deborah Vidal. Welcome to the Vidal Speaks YouTube channel. Many of you are already my podcast listeners, but for those of you who listen to my podcast only via YouTube, I want to welcome you. And I'm so excited today because this is my first YouTube video. I've really wanted to do this for a long time, and believe me, it's not easy because I have to teach myself everything. You know, I'm one of those people, when someone has a computer problem, they come to me. And so I've learned how to use computers kind of just because I get all the problems. But I've been really wanting to learn how to do this and iMovie and stuff. So here I am, and I'm super happy about it. So I just want to start today with just a little introduction to say hello. And I want to tell you why I want to use the YouTube instead of just my podcast. So let's start with that. The reason I love my podcast, I'm really like a radio person at heart. I really love the idea of like not seeing something and having to listen. I don't know, it reminds me when I was little, I had grandparents that lived in England and I didn't ever meet them, and they would send us these tapes and I would listen to them and I'd close my eyes and it'd be like they were right here. So there's just something really special about podcasts. But video is awesome too. It's just something I've never done before, so I really wanted to try it. But my podcast is really something that I use as a platform to interview guests, and I try to ask them all the questions that I think you guys would want to know and that I want to know. And then these can be our teachers, and it can help me spread my message, because then you can hear other experts and better experts in the field, and sometimes the best in the field, and it gives you guys a lot of ideas about the truths and the lies. But for my YouTube channel, I really wanted to do something different. I used to do on my podcast something called a Me Speaks, and it's where I just do a podcast by myself and I just talk. And I love that. And so that I decided that should be my YouTube channel, because then I could just sit down and rant when I have something to say. Like if I read something or hear something and I'm just so upset about it, I could sit down and rant with you guys, or go off on a tangent about some idea or some new fad or some horrible drug or whatever it is. But also, I started getting so many emails of people asking me questions if I could help them, because they would send me pictures of their skin or their feet, or tell me about something in their blood work, or that their husband's been diagnosed with prostate cancer, or that their daughter was injured by a vaccine, and just so many things like this. And I know, you guys, there's so many people out there sick, and so I really feel like I want to help you guys. I want to be the ones that, I want to be the one that helps contribute to the solution here on the planet, because the medical world, it's more the problem than the solution. So I'm really thinking that this would be a great venue for me to sit down and answer a lot of your questions, because I think through answering questions, all of you can learn. And even if it's not your question, I always compare it to like going to a webinar is not the same as going to a seminar. When I took a webinar, I always had a lot of questions, but you don't always get picked, and then you don't get that answer. And if you guys know me out there, you know I'm a person that has a lot of questions. And I assume that after my interview on my podcast, that I've probably answered all your guys' questions, because I always have so many. But this idea of using my YouTube channel for you guys to ask me questions about your health or about anything, and then I can read the question, and maybe in one show we get one question and I go off on a bunch of tangents, because it's through these tangents that you guys are going to learn. And if I answer someone else's question, I'm sure many other people will have those questions out there, and so we can all learn together that way. And at the same time, then you guys can see how I'm thinking and how it works, and maybe what my homeopathic recommendations are, and what my nutritional advice would be, and what my advice would be to do on considering all natural remedies. So I think this is the perfect venue for that, because then we can sit face to face. And you guys know I'm studying iridology, right? Well, if you don't know, I want to tell you that my last podcast was with Dr. Morse, and it was on my birthday, and honestly, it was the best podcast I ever did because he's such a mentor of mine, and thank you, Dr. Morse, for everything you've given all of us. But I feel so honored to have learned with him, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But anyways, I did this podcast with him, and it's really great, and he posted it on his YouTube channel. And by the way, if you guys haven't watched any of Dr. Morse on his YouTube channel, please go and put in Dr. Morse and put in the Great Lymphatic System and just watch that one video. It's an hour and 3 minutes long, and you'll understand so much about health and why you're sick. And we're going to talk a lot about that because this is going to sound like a broken record because we've been lied to about why we're sick. And so I want you to understand all about the true causes of why we're sick and also how to get well. But before we go into all of that, let me just give you a little bit of introduction in case we have some listeners out there that don't know who I am. I first would want to recommend that you guys go back to my website, which is vidalspeaks.com, and either listen to the first podcast, which is an intro, and I talk a little bit about my journey, but you can also read my story there online. But let me just go over a few little things. So first of all, I was born, and at the age of 11, I was pretty much a non-meat eater all my life, but at the age of 11, I got in a horrible accident and I was thrown from my horse. I was like bucked and did like 3 revolutions and landed on my tailbone and then slammed my head back, and I actually died. I left my body. It was an amazing experience. It was a horrible experience, but once I left my body and I went above and I could watch down and see them resuscitating me, and I remember like screaming to them like, why can't you guys hear me? But then once I left that and started going through the tunnel of light like everyone describes, it was so peaceful and so beautiful, and all I can tell you is it was life-changing. And next thing I know, I was going through the tunnel, and next thing I know, it was boom, I was back in my body, and I just remember being in the ambulance and the guys going, how many fingers do I have up, and what's your name? And then while I was in the ambulance, one of my parents' friends were there because my parents happened to be out of town, and I remember asking him, why were you so mad at Sue when she came up on the horse because she was just trying to help? And he said, how did you know that? And then I thought, oh, maybe I better not say anything because I didn't really understand a lot of what happened. And for years I kept it quiet. I never told my parents. I never really told my friends. And when I was in high school, freshman year, I think, I went to Catholic high school, and there was this great priest, and he was really funny. He actually cursed and smoked, and he was not the usual priest. And he became my tennis coach, and I was like, I played tennis in high school. I'd never played before, but he said one day, do you want to play on the tennis team? You're tall. And I said, okay. So I did, and he taught me, and then for 3 straight years we were the Nevada State doubles champions, so it was kind of cool. But I became very close with Father Bebo. That was his name, Father Bebo. And anyway, I confided in him one time, and I said I had this experience and I never told anybody because it seemed so strange. And then he gave me a book, and I read all these other cases of people that had the same experience, and it made me feel comforted, you know, that I wondered what it was. But one thing I can tell you is when I came back into my body and I came back into life, I don't feel like I was ever the same. I mean, something like that does change you forever. And for me, it changed because I learned at that young age that I had some work to do here. Wasn't exactly sure what it was, but I knew it was about helping others. And I also learned that when you leave here, whether it's you pass on and you die, that you take everything with you except your body. But I felt exactly who I was at that time when I left. And so it made me realize, like, this life really does matter, and you have to do everything you can to live it right and to do the best you can to help others, to to like take care of yourself, to be honest, to treat others right, just really make the most out of life as far as doing the right thing. And that stuck with me, and it always has. And then there was also a life-changing thing because my physical body was so destroyed. I really, my back, they thought they put me on one of those spinal boards, and they said I had broken my back. And when I got to the hospital, I remember them saying, wow, you're so lucky you didn't break your spine, but you'll probably have back problems all your life. I hate when they say that. God, when I have my pneumonia, oh, you're going to have horrible lungs the rest of your life. You're going to have many more pneumonias. I mean, we really shouldn't plant those ideas in people's head. But anyways, that's what I was told. But the sad thing is because at the time when that happened, they were focusing on my low back because they thought I broke my tailbone and some vertebrae in my lumbar. But nobody even took an x-ray of my neck. And they were worried about a concussion, but nobody even thought about my neck. And my dad's a doctor, he's an ophthalmologist. And most medical doctors don't believe in chiropractors because they always felt like they're going to break your neck by cracking it like that. So I never went to anybody other than like an orthopedic doctor and the doctors in the hospital. And then they told me, yeah, you have, your spine is extremely bruised and you have some trauma to it, and you'll have to always be careful, kind of stuff like that. And so anyways, I didn't understand, a lot about, I don't know, what would you say, the physical body, right? The skeletal structure. So I just figured I'm young and in time it'll be better. And I never thought it was, as bad probably as it was. But needless to say, it was horrible because by the time that I really understood how bad it was almost really too late, because I discovered at the age of 17 that my atlas, which is this first bone up here in the neck, and and it's the only bone in your neck that's kind of free floating, that's not anchored. So I discovered when I decided, because I had horrible migraines after that accident, horrible migraines, really, it was, and I lived with those migraines for 43 years, you guys. I only just got rid of them maybe 5 years ago or something like that, but it left me with so many migraines that I wasn't even thinking about my spine problems at that point, because you're a kid and you're still pretty healthy and you don't understand how it's going to affect you later. But someone had told me about this chiropractor in Las Vegas that could maybe help me with my headaches, and I went to him, and then he looked at me and he like, oh my God, because I had this atlas was so far out that literally you could put your finger there and it was like a half a golf ball. And every chiropractor, and I've seen like 150, because on the LPGA tour we had one in the locker room every week, and if we didn't, I rented a car and I went to go see one, because I was always so struggling with my neck. And your neck and your back is connected, and when one side is out, then you have really problems of instability on the other side. So it's been really a chronic issue my whole life. But this chiropractor that I went to, he just said, wow, but every doctor, not most, all of them told me, oh, too bad this is so many years old, because now it's 10 years old. And then others told me, okay, now it's 20 years old, and now it's 30 years old. That bone will never move. It's there. It's really a shame. So I gave up hope that I would ever have it changed. But I did find a chiropractor in the last few years. You guys probably know the story. Dr. Twang, I interviewed him on my show, and he does a special technique called upper cervical, and it's where they adjust just this bone, and it's a very, very technical and very special technique. They don't crack it. They just use, I call it the karate chop, but they use this special table, and it's like this really fast motion, and the table drops down. And one time, my bone went probably 80% in. I was so shocked, but the only reason I found him because I was struggling with a horrible vertigo, because my neck had been just, I guess it got 1 little millimeter out too far, and it put some pressure. I'll have to tell you guys that story, man. That was about the worst thing I ever had. But anyway, that was how I kind of got relief. So that helped me. But the thing that cured my headaches was homeopathy, and it took me about 43 years to find, and I had seen 5 or 6 remedies, but my master, actually I call him my master teacher, but his name is Dr. Master, and he was one of my very main homeopathic teachers. I had 3 really big teachers that impacted my life homeopathically, but Dr. Master was very special because he fixed my migraines. So I'm eternally grateful for that, and I can't tell you, every day I wake up I go, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky and I'm so happy, because all these poor people with migraines now I really can understand. And you know, sometimes I think as a healer you just have to get everything, because you have to, if you can't fix it on yourself, then how are you going to help other people? So yeah, I've had a lot of things, you know, I've had a lot of injuries, and that all stemmed from that one injury. And if you guys know anything about homeopathy, you know that arnica is a remedy that helps for a lot of trauma and a lot of injury. And I always say, I'm Mrs. Arnica, or I'm the Arnica Queen, because geez, I think it's my constitutional remedy, because I've had a lot of things, a lot of accidents, but it kind of has all stemmed from this weak spine from my horse accident. But anyway, I'm just grateful. It reminds me of a story where I was reading the other night, a lecture that Dr. Christopher gave. Do you know who he is? He's that old herbalist. I mean, if you ever get a chance to buy one of his old herbal books, please do. He's amazing. But I was reading a lecture that he had given somewhere, and he said, I was blessed to be born with rheumatoid arthritis, because having that disease taught me how to cure myself, and by curing myself, then I could heal so many other people. So imagine, to think that being born with rheumatoid arthritis is a gift. Well, I can tell you, it's hard to feel it like a gift, but honestly, looking back, you can see what a gift it is, because although it's horrible and it took me so many years to recover from those migraines, I tried. I mean, I was on the search for a healing path through natural medicine since the age of 11. I was one of those kids begging my mom to take me to the library. I was reading herbal books. I went to health food stores. I tried spirulina drinks. I tried all that I could. There was no internet, Now it would be so much easier. But even now, with all the internet, and before my migraines were fixed, I was endlessly searching, And most of you guys know my story. My partner, Lloyd, has a chronic pain syndrome. He has these horrible pains in his feet, and he had to get a neck fusion because he was in a horrible accident in 1994, and he was hit he was actually off his bicycle, like not riding it, but waiting on the sidewalk for a red light to cross, and a car ran a red light and hit a car, and that car hit him as it kind of spun around and hockey pucked him off, and it threw him like 150 feet, and he hit his head on the curb and split his head ear to ear, but he hit so hard that it severed his aorta in 2 places. And he was lucky enough, there was a cop right there, and they called an ambulance. There happened to be an ambulance right there. He died in the ambulance, but they were able to bring him back and give him a transfusion. Then they got him to Cedars Hospital really fast, and he died on the table, and they were able to bring him back again. So I guess it's meant to be, we're together, right? We both had this near-death experience, and we're both kind of physically been beat up by our accident. So that's between having Lloyd with all his pains, well, let's just say this, after that surgery, it kind of made his body susceptible to become really arthritic, because he had a lot of problems after that. A lot of things they couldn't fix because they were so busy trying to save his life that they didn't fix the collarbone and his ribs and stuff. So you live with these injuries that as you get older, later, they start bothering you. But anyway, Lloyd had to get this fusion. long story, but we're not going to go there. I can, over the, all these episodes, you guys will hear a lot of my stories. But anyway, after his surgery, he woke up with these numb feet, and it's been horrible. And for 10 years, over 10 years now, we're on this journey to try anything, to find anything to heal his feet. So this is part of my journey is Lloyd, and myself, and then my patients, and then you guys. And so in the end, I feel like, I'm like the research queen, but part of it is because people out there are suffering, and I want to be the one, to help and to offer some advice, because I know how powerful not only homeopathy can be, but natural remedies and all these, alternative things that, like herbs, for example, homeopathy, these are like my acupuncture. But, I really rely on nature's, I want to just call them medicines. I mean, I don't mean that in a medical term, but they are natural medicines. They're healing plants and healing remedies. And don't forget, let food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food. That's what Hippocrates told us a long time ago. And so many people need to understand how important what they put in their mouth, on their skin, and how important all of that is in getting well. So that's all the things we're going to be talking about on this channel. I'm really excited about it. So a little bit more about my journey, though. I went on to study homeopathy. Well, first of all, I just want to say, you guys know I'm a professional golfer, and I qualified for the tour, and shortly after I started playing, I started getting sick, and I would get these sinus infections I never had before, but it would just be like one after another, and after another. And between that and then, of course, training away, I was swinging and hitting balls and playing and training and running, and I did, as you guys probably know by now, I'm pretty intense when I decide to do something. I'm ambitious, and I really give it my best, and I gave it my best, and kind of, was hard on my body through my training. But anyways, it's what got me there, because I didn't hit a golf ball till I was 23, and I was on the tour in 3 years, and I was a scratch player the first year, and I qualified for the tour the second year, and I started on the tour my third year. So it was pretty incredible. I still think it's a record that hasn't been broken to start that late and to turn pro like that. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy on my physical body, because the move of the golf swing, it's such a torque. You're bent and you're twisting, and then you're hitting into the ground at 100 miles an hour. But it was a great experience, and it was not easy for me in a lot of ways. I loved the travel. That was cool. But the golf, that wasn't my favorite. And I know that sounds crazy, but sometimes things come into your life for something, like as a lesson, as a teacher. There's a saying, I don't know if it just meant with people, but I remember Lloyd's mom would always say, people come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. But I felt like, okay, golf came into my life for a reason. It definitely wasn't a season, because I played 11 years. And it definitely wasn't a lifetime, because I don't play now, and it's not something that I'm passionate about. And probably that's because I did it so much, and I'm too worried about what it would do to my back. And I did it so much already. I don't want to spend my time doing that. I have too many other health passions that I love. So, but anyways, it was my teacher, because it taught me, I was a person that was intense and quick, and in golf you have to be calm and quiet and slow. And then they don't wear nice clothes, and I always liked fashion, and I like to talk, and so it was like my exact opposite. But some people have a guru for their teacher. Other people have like an elderly wise person for their teacher. But I had golf. It taught me really a lot about myself. You really have to learn a lot, especially when you do it for a living. So I'm very grateful about it. But I did that career for 11 years, and I just became so sick from all the pesticides on the course. I was just getting sicker and sicker. and sicker, and I was going to the hospital because they would turn into these respiratory things and I couldn't breathe, and they'd have to put me on breathing machines. Finally, I had to resort to antibiotics because I had tried everything. Believe me, we traveled all over the US. I traveled to Japan, to Europe, to Mexico, to Canada, and every stop I'd look up some natural healer. I tried everything and I was just getting sicker and sicker. But in the end, I found this doctor that diagnosed me with a gigantic polyp in my sinus cavity, and he himself said he thought it was from the pesticides on the golf course. So I ended up having to have sinus surgery, and I so wish I wouldn't have done that. But live and learn. I didn't know what I know now, and although I did a lot of natural stuff and I was pretty aware, nothing compared to today. But I felt like oh wow, I have a tumor, that's got to come out. And I didn't understand. And I did this surgery and it didn't really help me. I still got a lot of infections and I still struggled after that. But between that and my back, I had to leave the tour. And I was on this mission. I got to find a way to get well. And I know I'm sick from these pesticides. And the only way to do that is to detox, right? And that's how I first found Dr. Morse's book. It was some years later, but on this journey that I was on about detoxing, I really started looking about, how to do that. And Dr. Morse wrote his book. I don't know what year that thing was published, but I think I have had that book. I bought it probably 15 years ago. But I started detoxing even before that, juicing, doing all the things, and this is how you learn, reading and fasting and water fasting. I did a lot of colonics, this kind of stuff, right? Eventually, when I found Dr. Morse's book, I learned about the lymphatic system, but nobody can teach you really how to heal that and how to detox it. And reading a book is not the same. If I'd have found his YouTube channel, it would have been totally different, but I don't even know if he had it back then, although he has thousands of videos on there, but I hadn't discovered him that way. So I did a lot of mostly dietary things. I did like saunas, and then I did our diet. I moved it much cleaner, organic and vegan, and just juicing and coffee enemas, and I just did so many things. And so I really have a lot of experience of detoxing. It's been my life, I'd say, since, for a long time, even while I was playing, I was interested in this. But since I left the tour, which was in 97, I think, I really have focused on it. So I really have a lot of experience and knowledge about what doesn't work and what's just BS and how many lies we're told about it and all this stuff. And this is what we want to talk about on this show. But then I got interested when I was sick in homeopathy, because someone told me when I was living in Boulder, Colorado, oh, have you seen the local homeopath? And I said, no, but homeopathy, I've taken arnica before, but isn't that just for like little stuff? It wouldn't work for something so deep like that. And they said, oh, no, you need to see, and you need to see her. And I said, okay. So I made an appointment, and I had to wait a couple months. She was really booked. And I went there, and I fell in love with this lady because she was so cool. It was the first experience of sitting down with someone that took 2 hours. And in that 2 hours, she never asked me anything about my sinus infection. She just started asking me, what was it like when you went through the grief of losing your sister, and how did you feel when you were playing the tour, and were you happy, and how was your relationships and stuff like this. And I thought, wow, that's so cool that somebody cares about who you are, and I love this. And the moment I sat in that office with her, I knew this is what I was going to do, because I was just in the process of leaving the tour. I was working for the Golf Channel doing TV, and I was knowing, when I left, I said, I need to do something completely different. I want to leave golf, and I want to really go for my passion, and that's health and helping people. And I was at that time, that's one of the reasons I moved to Boulder, because I thought maybe when I'm living in a place like that, it would help me decide which natural medicine area to go into. Would it be naturopathic? Would it be acupuncture, herbs, or would it be homeopathy? And in the end, when I met this homeopath, I said, that's what I'm going to do. And I studied and I studied and studied and studied and studied. And you can ask any of my patients. I'm still studying and studying and studying. And I never stop because I have so many people in my life. You know, my patients, I always got like the worst ones with horrible syndromes or horrible diseases or cancer or, terrible things. It's just, that's just my calling, that people come to me that need a lot of help, and I get emails, and it's just you guys, it just breaks my heart because, it's just, the world is so sick, and I'm really a sensitive person, and it's really been difficult these years, like treating people really sick, because it's heavy, it's a heavy burden, and they leave your office, and you got to make sure you're not carrying all their disease around in you, and so part of it is like you can't see too many heavy cases at one time, and I had to really take care of myself, and that's how I got really run down and got my pneumonia, because I was always doing too much for others and not myself. But I learned that's a lesson I learned when I almost died of my pneumonia. But anyways, homeopathy is still my passion. I love it so much, and although it's extremely difficult, I'm really like pushing through and trying to learn how now that I can use it in today's modern toxic world a little bit differently than I would say that I was doing when I started, or I've always been, kind of using the idea of food in my practice, but so many people are unwilling to change their diet, and of course give a good remedy and nutritional advice, but I really wanted to understand a lot more about why people were so sick, and I kept seeing common things. The common things I'd see is everybody's adrenals were shot. Many people, most had thyroids that were shot. Why? I couldn't figure out why. And then a lot of their symptoms just seemed like toxicity, and yet they were eating such poor diets. Would it change if I changed their diet? Would it change if I took them off of gluten? Would it change, if I just gave them natural herbs in addition, or if I did a series of detox stuff? So I always had this feeling that their remedy should help me get them clean. And so I'm moving more and more in that direction now, and I came up kind of with my own protocol, and I'm using a lot more what we call SAR codes, which are remedies made from, say, like the kidneys or the liver, because it stimulates the organ to detox. So I'm really excited about my understanding now in a little bit different way with homeopathy. At the same time, I'm always learning. Right over there is a book that I just got, and it's a lot about homeopathy and detox, because there's not many people in the world that are studying this field with homeopathy, but the ones that are really, I think, solving a lot of cases that most others can't. And that's one of my worries, is that a lot of people are going to go to homeopaths and then they won't get better, and they're going to say, I tried homeopathy but it didn't work. But that's because we need to be prepared to try to understand in this toxic world what we have to do. I believe that there's just a lot of toxic layers that's just stuck on top of the Constitution. You have to learn to peel those off, and so that a lot of the remedies we're giving, we're not able to get through those toxic layers. That's kind of my philosophy, but we'll talk more about that later. Mainly, I just want you to know that it's really a passion of mine. So when I speak on this YouTube channel, it's going to be through the feeling of my, it's just through I'm a homeopath. And so when I speak, it's going to be as a homeopath, through all the knowledge that I have as a homeopath, that we know it's body, mind, spirit. We know you have to treat the whole person. It's not the disease. If I treat a person with lupus, telling me all the common symptoms of lupus isn't going to help me find the remedy. But if they tell me some characteristic things, like what we call the little golden gems, and it might be that they're super thirsty, or they're introverted, or that there's some unique thing in their lupus that other lupus patients don't have. And then those kinds of things are characteristic symptoms that will help me find the remedy. So homeopathy is just really a passion. And another passion that I have is iridology. And I'm so excited because I decided to do Dr. Morse's level 1 training, which teaches you how to become a detox regeneration specialist. And I did it this year and I passed it. And level 2 is iridology, some say iridology, and advanced protocols. And I signed up for that, and I'm going in October with my soul sister Ellen. And I'm so excited about that because I've loved iridology since I was in my 20s. I've had books on it, but it's a hard thing to teach yourself. It's really, really tough. So in the end, I felt like, okay, I can't really learn this myself. It's too complicated. But I always would read about it, but I kind of gave up on it. I have books on my shelf. I have books on my Kindle. And you know, when Lloyd started getting this pain syndrome, why didn't I think about taking a picture of his eye? But I didn't. And now that I've been studying this last year because I'm preparing, you know, reading a lot of this gigantic book, like, I don't know, 500 and some pages. It's one that Dr. Jensen wrote that's been out of print for a long time, and I was lucky to get a copy on eBay, and it's so incredible. And I'm studying because when I go to that seminar that's like in October in Florida, that's where I'm going to do my level 2 certification. So I just really am excited about this. And you guys know my dad's an ophthalmologist and an eye doctor, and I have a love of eyes. So this is a great combination to kind of combine my love for the eyes and my love for natural medicine and using the eyes to help diagnose, so I can give a better remedy, so I can tell people what's weak in them, or, you know, more importantly, the eyes show you so much. They show you things that are going to happen, and, you know, even if they haven't happened yet, they show the weaknesses that can become crises. So it's really cool, and I'm super in love with it. And, you know, I love herbs too, so I'm just one of those people at heart that just really loves and believes, you know, in nature's medicine. Nature's medicine. Nature, this is, you know, this is how it should be. I mean, we don't need drugs, and if we do need drugs, it should be only in acutes, right? Like, how fantastic it could be to have an opioid when a patient comes out of surgery and for 3 days or a week they need help. But, you know, those kind of drugs, in 5 days they're hooked, and they're prescribing these drugs to people who are in chronic pain for months. That's wrong. That's flat out wrong. That's a crime. It really should be a crime. So we're doing a lot of wrong things. So basically, my purpose of this YouTube channel is, you know, I want to talk about how I can help you. I want to answer your questions. I want to talk about all the things that we have to do in our life that make true health, like detoxing, what kind of diet. You guys know I'm a long-time vegan, and that I do a lot of detox. And my diet consists, I'm a high raw, and I eat mostly fruit. Probably 90 to 95% of my diet is fruit, and probably 98% is raw right now. We started doing this in January, but even before we were high raw, like 70%, but we're trying to do this high fruit diet to heal Lloyd's nerves, and you'll learn more about that when you learn more about Dr. Morse. But anyways, this is how I eat, and I've seen the benefits with so many people, and Dr. Morse has treated 300,000 people in really serious cases, you guys, and it's so impressive how amazing his success rates are. And yeah, it's powerful. Fruit is powerful, and I want to blow away all these myths about, you know, fruit feeds cancer and the sugar thing, and that's what I talked about with Dr. Morse on my podcast. So I'm really, really looking forward to all of this, and I just want to remind you guys to send me questions. And if you send a question, try to take a picture of your eye. There's a special way to do it. You've got to, you know, hold your eye open, and you got to have someone take a picture with your iPhone really close. It doesn't work to take it far away. So, but you can Google how to take a good eye photo, and you'll see Dr. Morse has a video on how to do it. So you can learn. If you want to send me pictures of your eyes, I can give you some general things that I see, and that'd be good for me for practice. I'm going to be doing consultations once I get certified, but for now I would love to answer your questions by also seeing a picture of your eye, because I can tell you a lot more. And so, you want to write me a question. My email is contact@vidalspeaks.com. You can just go to my website and contact me from there. But send me questions. I already have, 5 or 6 in my box I'm going to do. So the very next video I'm going to do after this one will be starting with our questions. So you guys, we all need to stay together in this journey of wellness, because like Dr. Moore said, we need to go from Hellville to Wellville, and thank God he's trained hundreds of practitioners already, because they really know how to get people better. But we're living in really difficult times. Our planet is in dire straits as we speak. Out those windows, not too far away in Northern California and south of me here in Orange County, we have 17 fires going on. One of them is the second biggest in the history of California. And just last October, that went all the way through December, we had the biggest ever. So it's really a concern. Our climate is in dire straits, and the way we eat is affecting that. And now it's affecting our health, because, like just for the fires, they're throwing all these retardants and they're all cancer causing. And then if we don't have our trees and we don't have our bees and we don't have our oceans, we're all in this together, and we all need each other. We need our animals, we need our trees, we need our bees, we need our air, we need our good food, and we need each other. And so we really got to learn, this. We need to all get to Wellville together, and that's why I do this. Really, the only reason I do this podcast is because there's so many lies out there, and the medicine and doctors, they're the problems now, and they're not the solution. So I really need to tell you guys the truth. I've learned for so many years now, for 22 years of my homeopathic practice, not counting all the years before that where I was passionately reading and learning. I can tell you, you finally get to a place like you learn what's garbage, what you read has to go away, what you read that you keep, and this is what makes the truth. You have to plow through so much crap, really, because only some of it is correct and most of it isn't. And with the internet, it's out of control. There's so much misinformation. It's almost better to know nothing. And you have to know when you go on the internet to look something, to find out who wrote it, where it's coming from. So this YouTube channel, I hope, can be your support system, where you can learn, that it's kind of solid information coming from people that have a lot of clinical experience and a lot of knowledge and understanding. And I just want you to remember one thing: you're not sick, you're toxic. And the other thing I want to tell you is never give up hope. I don't care if you're listening because you're sick, because you have cancer, because you're really sick, because you just want to feel better, or you just want to prevent from getting sick. You're all welcomed here, and God bless you if you're only doing this for prevention. But we all are toxic. The world is so toxic today. So we all really need to take detoxification extremely seriously. And I'm looking so forward to talking with you guys, to answering your questions, and to just being able to sit here with you guys while stand and rant. And I hope to change it up. I was first going to sit at my desk, but it's kind of boring. And we have a beautiful, I don't know if you can see outside, but there's the city all lit up. And maybe I do it outside so you guys can see a little bit of the hills. We call it the knob because we live on the hills, and it's got beautiful views here. So might not be the best sound if I'm out, but I want the scenery to be interesting. I might even take a little walk with my little stick and do it like that with you guys. But I wanted to just start because I've been putting this off, kind of scared to do a YouTube video, but here it is. I did it. I'm really excited. So welcome to my channel. Please subscribe, and if you guys can and you're not using anyone's Amazon banner, I'd really love that. If you ever want to donate, you can do so either on my website, right, or just email me and I can give you my PayPal. But anyways, I love you guys, and I so appreciate you, and I really look forward to being on this journey together. And don't forget, send me your questions. All right, see you later.